Hello, Culture Matters podcast. Boy, am I excited for this episode today. Before I introduce you to our guest, here is a quote just for this episode. Plans are only good intentions unless they immediately degenerate into hard work. Peter Drucker. Our guest today knows hard work. They are a regular on the Culture Matters podcast. If you listen to our show, you've heard them in episode 216. They have a story to be told from learning life the hard way in the streets and in the real world to door, building customers, building relationships, working 80, 90, 100 hours a week, starting from zero to becoming a hero to many. I mean, they've got a franchise that you want to learn more about if you're in and or around the roofing industry or of interest in being a professional in that space. Founder of MP Construction, Martindale Pinnacle Construction. Paul Martindale is coming back to talk all things entrepreneurship, vision, strategy. And one of the biggest takeaways I had from episode 216 was just how far Paul looks out. So I'm excited to pick his brain today. So thanks for coming back on the show, brother.
Hey man, I'm happy to be back. Good to see you.
Yeah, I'm excited to learn. First of all, like what would be your word for 2023? Because we saw each other not too long ago.
Yeah.
If you were to encapsulate, the lessons, the realizations, from taking your company to where it was just even a handful of years ago to where it started to blossom, right? In
Yeah.
last year. So, what would be your word for 2023?
Um, I definitely, I know I think I said like in the middle of the year, I was kind of going from phase three to phase four of my life. I broke it up into phases. It was a trialing year, man. I'm gonna be honest. It was a trialing year just with franchising my company. It's a lot more work than I thought. And I think I mentioned it the last time, one of my downfalls is I'm a pretty impatient person. And so God uh, is really making sure that I become more patient because I was hoping to have launched and be selling franchises actually in December. And
Oh,
we haven't launched, I guess, quote unquote, launched yet. And so lot to do with the attorneys, a lot to do with just setting it up correctly, a lot to do with getting your sales team in line to sell them. And so I'm actually going to start out outsourcing the sales to a team that obviously specializes in selling franchises. But hopefully, I'll have an in-house team at some point. But it's once again, it's a lot more work. I also was um, setting up another office in Houston, which is, you know, ways away from my Wisconsin corporate headquarters. It's a lot easier for me to travel to even Minnesota. Our office is about 4.5 hours away, and I can easily drive up there usually in the morning and stay for a couple of days, check on my teams. It's a whole different story when it's in Houston. It's not that easy. So there's just a lot going on in the industry. There's a lot going on just with small businesses in general. But yeah, it was a trialing year, and but I know I'm going to get through it. I've got through every gauntlet that's ever came at me, and so I know I'll get through it. I know I'm going to persevere and win. So, but yeah, that's kind of my takeaway, man. I had some obviously some good things happen, but there was some definitely some trial and errors. So,
would you then is it persevere or
what's
is it
that?
patience? Your word for 23. I'm thinking, oh, it can go a
Patience.
couple
Oh
ways
man,
with that.
that has to be the word once again that came full circle right back around to me again. Just be patient. You got to hold the line and just not give up. I know I've got the people, the right team in place. I've got the structures, the policies, the procedures. It just some of this stuff takes longer to happen than you want. So it
Hmm.
is what it is. I'll never forget though. I know I wasn't in a bad. I know I'm not in a worse spot than I was when I first started my business going through that first winter. I know that. I always look back on that year when I feel like giving
Wow.
up or going through some tough times. That was a very, very trying time. Uh, Getting through that winter in 2012, I was going to give up so many times, dissolve the company, go back to be a foreman of a guy that I knew, and I knew would let me come right back if I wanted, but I didn't. I held the line, and then that first job in 2013 was a big church, and I've never looked back. So,
What were the word tracks in your mind in, in that winter of 2012 that you like that kept you going? What were you saying to yourself?
um, I think because you know my story now. I mean, I did 8 years in prison, and so that was really tough. So whenever I get into some issues or some problems out here, and I guess in the quote unquote real world, I just always look back on prison. I'm like, well, at least I'm not in prison. I mean, I'm on the, I have my freedom, and I know anything that hits me, I'm gonna find a way to get through it. I found a way to beat everything else. Every negative thing, every gauntlet, every hurdle, I found a way to beat it. Yeah, that's just what I kept telling myself. I know I have the expertise in construction, which I've done. I've installed over 1,000 roofs myself. I mean, I have the expertise. It was just I didn't know too much about business, you know. And so to transition from doing the work to owning a business is it's unbelievable. So not that many people can do it, especially in the construction industry, which is a very ruthless industry. I think it's definitely the most competitive and hardest industry to excel in.
Mm.
So
Yeah, what were some of those early struggles that first year?
yeah, the first year, was once again, I mean, I did probably 30 projects from June to November of 2012 before winter hit. But that was just all retail. And then I'd probably done 150 retail quotes for customers in that time. But I had a big stack, of people that just hadn't made their mind up or being indecisive. And so when I went through that winter, it was just kind of like a waiting game. um there's just not too much going on. I didn't want to put a plow in my truck and damage my truck because a lot of guys plow in the winter. I just didn't do that. I never have to this day. I haven't went that route. Um, so yeah, I just kind of hunkered down, continued to, spend some time with the family and make phone calls, stuff like that. I was kind of still, in the industry, in the business, but wasn't really any work going on. And so um and once again, it was all retail. Once, in my opinion, storm restoration is 10 times of an easier sale than retail because they're in immediate need of you. Like a lot of times these homes or properties are leaking. And so they're in immediate need of a contractor. If it's retail, a lot of times it's not leaking. They're usually they're going to get usually 3 or 4 quotes and make their decision off that. Now, usually I'm pretty good at selling myself and my company just with the product and with the warranty, but some people are just going for the lowest bid, and so you just can't beat that. And so,
Yep.
especially now because my company's grown so much, my overhead's a lot higher. So if you call me out to do a retail quote now, I'm 99% of the time going to be the highest guy. So,
Mm.
but yeah, the main hurdle was just getting through that winter and just not having any work coming in and just kind of waiting to see if customers were going to go with me in the spring, which a lot of them did. And a lot of it was the follow-up call, which is another thing I stress to all my sales team is follow-ups are so key with customers. Just don't one time, and if they don't sign with you, give up. I mean, a lot of times it's 4 or 5 times, just continuing to
Really?
follow up with them, usually weekly, and just let them know that you're still interested in doing the job for them. So,
How do you start that domino of calling the second time? Like there's the
what'd you say? How do you do it?
how do you start the domino effect of the second call? Because I'm thinking five follow-ups, right? There's one, and then there's like a giant leap to two. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Um, like yeah, like I usually give like if it's storm related, I usually give you maybe a week. Like if I've been out there and given you a free assessment, not an estimate, an assessment, and we've noted damage, I might not even give you that. It might be 2 or 3 days because we're probably going to meet in the area, constantly signing your neighbors. We've got claims now going, roofs are getting put on. So I mean, I'm probably gonna if I see you, we're probably gonna knock your door maybe every 3 days. If it's retail though, I'm probably gonna wait a week, couple weeks, and just call them. I got your cell phone. I'm gonna call you and say, hey, Paul with MPC. I know we did that quote for you. Have you got any other estimates or what? Are you comparing apples to apples? That's always key, because we're installing the whole system. We're not running down the bargain aisle at Menards and mixing and matching materials. Like we're going to install the whole system for you. You're going to get the warranty. Just checking in, seeing if you got some estimates and what you think. So I want
You
to stay
just
on the radar.
mentioned you just mentioned Menards. I know a limited amount, but that's a family business. Pretty sure it's run by like the father son. I don't know if you know any about that culture. Because
But
the last time we talked, you talked about wanting to build a legacy, being attracted to
yeah,
that
yeah,
to the empire. I've
yeah,
heard of Menards, and I've heard it's the father son, I think, and
yeah,
the family business, and they're like this huge company, aren't they? Out
yeah.
your way?
Menards is a huge, huge conglomerate. Yeah, they've got a lot of branches. Yeah, there must
And
not be any down there. They must not be as big as Home Depot, but they're very big up here. Yeah, for sure.
yeah, but it is a Home Depot type company, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Same thing.
What
Yep.
would you what would you say? Do they have a strong culture?
Menards.
Yeah.
I would say so. Yeah. Yeah.
I was just curious because I was at Costco today, and the guy behind the behind the counter saw my shirt that said "Culture Matters," and he was like,
Yeah.
"You got to study us. Our culture is great." I was like, "Whoa, like this is crazy." Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So Menards is one of those old school businesses, kind of like a Costco.
Yeah.
So what about rejection? Right. So right now, in the tougher times, how do our listeners how can they handle rejection when they're under pressure to grow the business or to keep things going?
Yeah.
Like, but the rejection is still going to be there. It's still going to be a constant. What
Right.
would be your advice on how to
Yeah. I mean,
balance?
you can't sell everyone. I mean, if I've done, I've knocked thousands of doors with my team's knocked thousands of doors. There's no way you're going to land every single job. And so, I always just try to tell my guys to stay positive. You might even run across some people that might even, um, you know, be a little bit abrasive towards you. I just shrug it off, man. Just shake their hand, say, "Hey, sorry we couldn't help you out," or if you think otherwise, or if the other contractor doesn't stand up to what he says he's going to do, by all means, we'd be happy to help you out and go on to the next one. You can't dwell on it. If you're dwelling on negativity, it breeds negativity, and you just cannot do that. So
Hmm.
you're always going to get rejection. It's just staying positive, finding a way to get through it. Once again, I work out a lot, and so that keeps me level-headed, keeps the endorphins going, and gets rid of a lot of negativity. So I'm a big believer in just constantly working out, burning that
How do you
anger.
manage to do that with yeah? So how do you fit it in? Because a lot of people struggle with
Yeah,
just even myself because trying to get the trainer at like 4 a.m.
yeah,
I've
yep,
embarrassed myself. I'm not, I'm embarrassed
yep,
myself pretty
yep.
badly. How
I mean, it might be tough when if you start out like I was, like as a quote unquote one man rock star show, but as you grow, you're going to be able to find personnel, hopefully that can fill the certain positions that you need to run the company smoothly without you being there every single day, 10 to 12 hours a day. That's the key is just finding personnel that align with your vision, hiring them on, and then you should be able to find definitely some free time to do that. But even without that, I mean, at the end of the day, even a half an hour, I'm not saying you got to spend an hour and a half, 2 hours in there. Even just a half hour straight of just really getting after it is going to be really beneficial to your health and to your mind frame. So
I'm laughing. Our audience can't see unless they're seeing the YouTube, but there's a treadmill behind me with a missing plug. Just so I'm honest with you, like I got to order that new plug from Amazon. I'm gonna do that after this podcast. Yeah,
yeah,
I got
man.
that Peloton treadmill. No plug. It's gonna go in the wall. By the way, like what the movers must have left that right. And it's been 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Where's the plug?
Right.
What are what's happening in the industry now, right? That there are those in the industry that listen to our show
Yeah.
around the roofing space. Like, what's the current state of affairs? Would you say?
Um, it's definitely different if you're talking insurance compared to retail, but even in the insurance industry, it's getting tougher and tougher just to kind of get claims approved and expedite claims, as I call it. Like I'm very good as if all we really need is that just initial approval, and I've got the manpower to get these projects done. But if we can't even get a simple approval, and it's going to lead to having to file for a reinspect, send in photos, send in an estimate, it just drags it out for another 3 weeks or so. And so it's just getting pretty difficult. And so the reasons behind that are you can only speculate. Um, but and like I think we were talking last year just about the roll-ups going on in this industry. There's just
Yeah.
a lot of that going on, a lot of companies selling out. I think this industry is definitely gonna be one of the toughest for like the conglomerates to come in and just buy everybody up. And there's only 6 or 7, real companies operating anymore. It's gonna be tough because there's a lot of ego in this industry. I see that a lot. And so a lot of guys
Right.
just aren't going to sell out. I don't think they are. There are more people definitely doing it, but there are still guys that they still want to own their company. They take pride in their workmanship, and they don't want to sell out. They do ultimately want to pass it down to their to a family and keep the legacy going. So yeah,
And you're seeing more and more acquisitions taking place. What
yeah.
exactly
Oh
are
yeah.
they buying? What's the value?
I mean, when I guess when you're getting rolled up under these big underneath one banner and one big company, it does give you a lot of, I guess, leeway to work basically in every state. So a lot of these companies, they'll be in position in all areas of the nation, right? And so when you roll up underneath one, if a big storm does hit, that gives you just a lot of added manpower where you can come in and flood the zone with 200, 300 sales guys, and they're from different companies, but they're all operating underneath one, banner now. So, I mean, that's definitely the plus behind it. Um,
Like potential
but
job flow, like where things are at, like where to travel kind of thing. If you're on the road following storms.
yeah, I mean, yeah. Well, sorry, go back to, I guess, what was the original
I'm trying to
question?
understand, like, meaning uh wherever the storms are, it'd
Yeah,
be like if there's a fire, the firefighter
yeah,
is going to go towards the fire.
yeah. I mean,
So
this is obviously a very lucrative industry, and a lot of guys are playing the long game. That's what these big conglomerates, they're playing the long game. So once again, that's if a guy's getting burned out in this, you can get burned out really easily in this industry. I've been in it 12 years now, and I think we were talking stats. I mean, 95% of construction companies don't make it 10 years. And there's just numerous reasons for that. But yeah, you just get burned out and you just want to go retire on a beach somewhere. And so most guys just they end up selling the name, selling the company. They've built it up over a period of whatever 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 years. And so they can get a pretty penny for selling. So
hmm. Yeah,
yeah,
I wonder how that could affect service. What do you think? Like the
it
actual
definitely can.
service.
I have seen it. Yeah. I've seen people tell me stories just going into companies that have been bought out and acquired, and morale's down as people are acting different. The owners kind of checked himself out, and that's just the case. And so, yeah, you're definitely right.
Well, because it's interesting thought, like the the owner checked himself out. Of course, like why would a founder be checked into something where they're employed now? I
Yeah,
haven't met a lot of founders that want to work for someone. And
exactly.
then and then I did have a
And
conversation
usually that's
recently.
part of the contracts. They got to stick on for 3 years just to make sure things keep going smoothly until it transitions to a new CEO. But yeah, a lot of guys are checked out, and the
Yeah,
whole company starts to suffer because of it. But
yeah, I think
yeah,
it's kind of ironic, right? The founder that is seeking control gives up control
yeah. And
for some
maybe, and
type.
then once again, it's not for everybody. Maybe they're just their heart has changed. They're just not passionate about it anymore, and I get it. They want to use their time and energy spent on a different, something else they're more passionate about. I've seen it happen all the time. They buy a bar. They they just want to sit in the bar and have their guys there, or I've seen a lot of different things that guys do when they sell out. But yeah,
What would you say are some of the big opportunities in 2024?
I talked with actually my sales team for my franchise, and he literally said that there's more action, more things going down just in the beginning of 2024 than all of 2023 is what he told me. So there's just people were kind of like on edge trying to see if the rates would go down. Investors were kind of everyone was sitting on the fence, and now it's just they're not going to wait anymore and they're going all in. So I think it's definitely going to be a big year for, yeah, definitely acquisitions. But also I believe it's going to hopefully be a big year for franchises too. People wanting to invest in a solid brand, a solid company like mine. So yeah, we're geared up for it.
What would you say has made your brand what it is today?
Um, Definitely just making sure that the projects are done correctly. And then the warranties is very key. And so I've always taken a lot of pride in just the work that we do. And I've tell everyone that comes to work for me since I started, yeah, everyone wants to make money, but if you focus more on making sure the customer's happy and the project's done right, the jobs are going to come and the money's going to come. But just make sure you focus on doing the job correctly and doing it right for the customer.
But why do you think we have to actually remind ourselves about that part?
You get caught up in day-to-day stuff. You get caught up in it. The bills start to overwhelm you, and a lot of times you can. That's usually one of the first things that goes is quality control. That's usually one of the first things. And especially even me, my company has suffered a little bit. When you bring new guys on, you've got to make sure that just you've drilled into them, whether it's your subcontractors or your sales team, just everyone's got to be moving, doing things the same way. You can't have one guy doing one thing, one crew doing it the one way, and another crew doing it differently. You've got to make sure that everything's being done the same.
Hmm.
So, and
What
everybody's
would you
on the
say are
same.
some the like qualities of a great roofing professional? If attributes like character attributes, what's the first that comes to your mind?
Yeah. I mean, obviously, I know the word integrity gets thrown around a lot. I mean, that's definitely one word
Does it?
yeah, I mean, it does get thrown around a lot in this business, and some people have it and some people don't. But that is, I mean, you have to have integrity when a lot of people aren't going to get on the roof, and so how would the customer even know if you did it right? You have to operate with integrity. If you don't, the roof's going to end up leaking probably at some point, and then you're going to get burned, and you're going to get a call, and you're going to get sued if you don't do it the right way. So just do it right. You may be able to save, cut some corners here and there, save a few bucks, but at the end of the day, it's going to catch up to you. It will.
Well, what's another one?
We've talked about it before, hard work. You gotta know how to work hard in this industry for sure. There's a lot that goes into it, especially if you're running a general contracting company, not just a roofing company. But when you're doing like multiple trades, like a lot of times it's sunrise to sunset, especially if you're just starting your own company, you're gonna see a lot of that. Sunrise to sunset. And you're still working after sunset, probably sending invoices, writing estimates. I mean, it just doesn't stop. Your phone's got to be always on. My phone's never off. It's even to this day, I very rarely shut it off. People want to be able to contact you right away. They shouldn't have to wait 2, 3, 4, 5 days for you to put your phone back on.
Were you always quick with the response, or did you have to learn that the hard way?
No, I've always been that way. I had some good mentors as I've been growing my company. But that's one thing that was drilled into me from right away and I saw people um, thanking me was just because the quickest turnaround that I had from when they would call. If I didn't call, I would get their voicemail and I would respond in such a timely manner that so many times people would say, "Man, we called so and so," and they wouldn't even pick up their phone, no call back, nothing. At least you get back to us. I mean, just tons of times that happened. And so they would actually just choose to go with me because, man, if I can't even get a hold of someone, why would I want to hire them to do work for me? At least I can get a hold of you if you're gonna, I know you're gonna call me back. So that's very key.
Integrity, hard work. What about a third?
integrity, hard work. I think perseverance, you're going to have that for sure. And that's owning any business, but definitely construction. You got to be able to persevere through so many different arrows and different things that come your way in this business for sure.
Hmm.
Can't give up. That's for sure.
Um, huh. Right now, you know, any like masterminds that you're a part of that you'd recommend, and or books, audio books for our listeners? Because I know you're a big student as you've grown the company over the last 12 plus years.
Yeah. Um, Infinite Game's a very good book, you know. That's just kind of how I operate my life and my business is
That's
just
Simon Sinek.
Simon. Yeah, I think it is Simon. I can grab it right now, actually, to find the author.
Right.
Hold
Oh,
on.
because start with Y off the same author as Star. I just want to. I think I know that Infinite Game.
Yeah. Yeah, really good book. So yeah, I mean, there's either you're kind of playing to sell out or you're playing for legacy and infinity with your business, and that's how I'm playing it. So
You do audiobooks or two or no?
not too much, not right now. No, uh,
Um, is that any particular reason?
not really. I've just been really busy, man, to be honest. I'm just extremely
Like when do you wake up in the
all over the
morning?
map,
When do
but
you go to bed?
it varies, you know. I try to 11, 10:30, 11, you know.
And then you
Sometimes
get up
later on the
early,
weekends if what's that?
and then you get up real early.
Yeah, pretty early. Yeah, 5:36.
Yeah, the reason I ask is I don't. I think a lot of people underestimate what it takes. One of my favorite quotes is we overestimate what could be done in a year, and we underestimate what could be done in 10.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite quotes. But then it's like how much it actually takes from us.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, and I think you're a
I
good
s-
example of this because you
yeah,
work
I
really.
see a lot of people waste a lot of their time, you know? If they were just to focus and had a schedule just and I hear all the time, well, I just don't have time. Well, what are you doing? Like what is taking up this time? Like if you really want to do something, you're gonna find the time to do it, you know?
Hmm.
So
How do you
if you
manage your schedule? Like, how do you live by your calendar, or do you have some type of organizational process that
yeah.
you use to regulate yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I've tried to like come back from just really running and gunning. I think we might have talked about that the last time too, where I was just running and gunning for probably 5, 6 years. You know, storm hits, I'm out in the field 24/7 with my sales team and we're just getting after it. I've had to really bring that back one because it's getting tiring storm chasing. And number two, just I was seeing that I was failing to get some things done in the office that I should have been more focused on. Um, so now I basically like the way I got it set up is now Mondays and Fridays I'm usually in the office, you know, and not maybe the whole day, but I'm definitely in there just checking on office staff, making sure that things are getting done, you know, right in the office. Where before I might stop in and say what's up and I was off to the races, but now it's more like I try to stay and this is the corporate headquarters in Wisconsin. Unless I've flown out to like Houston or something like that, I try to be at the corporate office, you know, Mondays and Fridays, and then out in the field, you know, with my sales team, my labor crews, stuff like that, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Is how I've got it now. Weekends, I still try to spend as much time as I can with family and friends, and a lot. I got a lot going on with that, but yeah,
Huh.
no more. I've tried to really kind of like be more structured now. Like once again, when you first started a company, that's all you were thinking about is sell, sell, sell. You know, I got to get jobs, and it's run and gun. Now it's more structured and just pulling back from that a little bit.
Hmm.
Hmm.
And what's the biggest lesson in the last 2 years?
Biggest lesson?
Yeah,
Um, there's a lot of lessons, man. Um,
or the top five?
Um, I guess never take someone's loyalty for granted, I guess. Loyalty is the biggest thing, the attribute you can have.
Hmm.
So I've had some issues with some guys uh cutting loose, just doing some sabotage stuff to me and my company. And it's just I've done a lot. I still do a lot to help out everybody that comes to work for me in my business, but there's some people that no matter what you do, they've got ulterior motives and they can't even exit right either. They're gonna try to lay as many bombs and booby traps on the way out as possible. And it's just not good. And so I tell everyone, man, be loyal, and that'll go a very long ways with people
Hmm.
in business. If you're constantly hopscotching around and always thinking the grass is greener on the other side, it's usually not. Especially when someone is shown to be loyal and to help you out. Don't ever burn that bridge.
Hmm. What about culture? How do you view culture in the business in a workplace? You have thoughts on it?
Yeah, I definitely think you definitely need to have it in within your business. So whatever, if it's certain kind of bonuses or mantras or um, whatever it is. I see a lot of different companies doing certain things, and I think it's good. You want to differentiate. You don't want to be doing the same thing anybody else is doing. You want to have your own culture and doing your own things. And so definitely stuff to help out everybody that works for you, whether it's the office staff, showing them that you appreciate them. It's not just the sales guys. There's more to the company than just the sales guys. There's also the office staff. There's your labor crews. I go out to lunch with my labor crews a lot, take them out to lunch. So it's just certain things that you can do to set yourself apart from everybody else.
Hmm. Is the industry growing this year?
Is it growing?
Yeah.
Um, I guess I really maybe. I don't know. I mean, there's always new companies coming up, so I guess that's every year. You got new companies that come up. But yeah, like I said, just what I've seen. The other big thing too is the deductibles. Like with insurance right now, from what they're saying, 3 to 5 years, it'll be all percentage deductibles. Won't be any flat rates. So like up here, we're still at $1,000 flat rate. I went down to Texas with my team, and it's 1, 2, 3% deductibles and not paying the recoverable depreciation. It's called non-recoverable depreciation. So people, even with and filing a claim and getting it approved with the insurance, are still having to pay 7, 8 thousand out of pocket, which to me is
Like
pretty
the
crazy.
homeowners?
Yeah. So
So that makes me think that could potentially make it harder to sell.
yeah, yeah. At the end of the day, I tell everyone that yes, it needs to be worth your while to file a claim, but at the end of the day, I guess money is money, and anything going towards the project is something. But yeah, usually you do want to make it worth your while. If it's just some gutters and some window wraps, and probably don't file a claim. But if the roof is definitely totaled out and you've got some siding damage, some other stuff, then yeah, we're probably going to recommend filing a claim. So
Yeah, does that? I'm thinking if there's more skin in the game for the customer, that makes me think that the relationship between the customer and the salesperson would have to be that much stronger, or
yeah,
the ability to communicate,
yeah.
the brand of the organization, how it's positioned. I'm curious what your thoughts are.
Oh yeah, exactly. Houston, like is Texas is still the wild, wild west, so there's no licensing requirements
Well,
down there. Up here, it's especially like Illinois, Minnesota, pretty tough states to get licensed in. Um, and it's constant. You have to do continued training to maintain your license. Down in Texas, I mean, anybody can throw a ladder in their truck and be a contractor, the next day. Um, so yeah, you have a lot of competition and a lot of people just looking for that lowest bid. A lot of guys run around wiping deductibles. And once again, these are guys that are just doing this as a hobby or just making it get some part-time cash. They're not like real companies. And so when guys like me come in, usually we can sell like, hey, this is one of your biggest investments is your home. Why would you want to, yes, maybe get your deductible wiped, but it's probably going to be leaking next year and now you're gonna have to redo it And I guarantee you, doing it twice over, if you just do it with that guy, is definitely going to be more than just going with me the first time and getting it done right. So that's usually always
So,
the angle
okay,
we go at.
so if the person that's selling it doesn't have the service to back it up, potentially the consumer may have to spend a lot more money.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, that's usually the angle that we go. Hey, we're not going to wipe deductibles. That's actually against the law. But one thing we are going to do is we're going to provide the best product, the best workmanship, and the best warranty. So, and most people get it, and they end up going with us. But if you know, once again, it's Texas, and there's a lot of that still going on down there with guys wiping deductibles and just doing shoddy stuff.
Why is it against the law to wipe the deductible? Or
It's just that's Texas law down there. One big one for sure thing. It's illegal in every state where a lot of times is the insurance company only owes the cost of repairs minus the deductible. So if let's just say a customer's got a $15,000 roof and they've got a $3,000 deductible. Well, and the contractor's trying to get that deductible wiped, right? So the customer, as of right now, according to the estimate, the insurance company owes $12,000. When the roof gets done, they're going to owe 12,000. The customer owes 3,000 because they've quoted the roof at 15,000, right? Well, if the if the contractor comes in, does the roof, and submits an invoice saying the work's done, release the depreciation, and he only did the work for 12,000, then that's fraud. Like you're getting the insurance company to release depreciation when they didn't really have to release it at all. Because you know what I mean? You didn't do the work for 15,000, you did it for 12,000. So really the insurance company only owes 9,000. They don't owe 12,000. So they only owe the cost of whatever the contractor charged minus the deductible. They don't owe anything more than that. So
and is that a potential way for the contractor to make more money?
no, it's just a way to sell a job. That's what a lot of guys' pitches are: is we'll wipe your deductible out. It's just
Oh,
a way.
so make
Yeah,
sure I get follow this correctly. So that potentially, if the consumer has less skin in the game, it's obviously an easier for them to agree because they're
right.
not contributing to this risk.
Yeah, they're not paying anything.
So the
So
sales could go up because there's less skin in the game.
yeah, and I've never done that since day one. I've never wiped deductibles. I'll always, we always offer like referral compensation, which I think any company in the United States, doesn't matter what you are, always offers some kind of a referral compensation. But just to run around saying we're going to wipe your deductible or dump it, whatever slang terminology they're using, that's and then invoice the carrier and say, hey, we did it for this amount when you didn't. That's fraud. That's basic. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, no, that's a great point. I
yeah.
mean, something people maybe consumers don't know the difference and they wouldn't know.
And once again, most insurance companies aren't going to come after guys for doing it, but there are some guys that are getting rounded up for doing that.
So,
You're not doing it for that price. And if that's your whole sales pitch is we're going to wipe your deductible, something's wrong. They're using the shoddy materials. They're not doing good workmanship. There's no warranties. I mean, it's not a good
yeah,
way to do
that would make
business.
me think there could be a connection with potentially not doing as good of a job.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah,
Why would I care as much of that if I'm not caring about the other thing?
right.
Yeah, what percentage of actual roofs that look like they're ready for a new roof are? I guess it's gray. It's a gray area, but
Hmm.
there's got to be some percentage. Like, is it 3 out of 10, 4 out of 10, 2 out of 10? What do you think in your experience? 7 out of 10 in your experience being on so many roofs? Is there like a ratio? You know
Well,
what I'm
if
saying?
you're in an area that's gotten hit, like, because I usually, I've worked some, I guess it's called marginal storms where it's 1 inch, inch and a quarter hail. Some of the roofs are definitely going to stand up to that, and there's not going to be any damage. Some of them are going to have damage, though. Usually, the ones that are probably 15 years or older are probably going to have some damage on it. But recently, I've been working just so many like catastrophic storms where it's almost every single house is going to have damage on it. So, and my company still right now, I'd probably say we're at probably 90% storm, 10% retail. So,
Let's say that a catastrophic storm occurs. The idea is the storm niche. they might go to the consumer before they realize there's a problem. It'd be like, before you have a heart attack,
Hmm.
hey, here's your stint or whatever.
Yep.
If the consumer figures it out, it's like they're going to retail, they're going to the hospital.
Hmm.
That's how I think of it. Am I kind of getting it? Am I kind of is that a
Yeah,
good
some
analogy?
guys, yeah, some people have gotten hit so many times, like back to back to back years, that they're pretty savvy to the game now, and so they want to get estimates and stuff like that, and like kind of I've seen customers where they're trying to get the highest estimate and submit that to their carrier, get the money, and then make money off the whole deal. I've seen a lot of stuff. And we don't ever do that. If it's storm related, we always offer that free assessment, but any work after that, as far as like meeting with the
No.
adjuster, providing satellite imagery reports, we're going to be locked in with you with a service agreement. That's just the way that I run my business now. So,
Hmm.
and I explain that, like, listen, you understand our time is worth something. That's usually the number one question I ask them. Everyone's time is worth something. And so usually when most people, yeah, I agree, your time is worth something. Okay, well, if you want to do your due diligence and look my company up, then by all means do that. But if you want us to continue on with any future work or further work for you. And once again, most customers are not going to get on the roof with the adjuster. They're not going to do all this stuff. We're going to spend our time, our gas coming here. If you want us to do that, then you're going to be locked in with us. If the work gets approved, we'll be the contractor that gets the work. That's what we get signed with them. So,
You're helping them make the decision to do something that could benefit their long-term
right.
real estate needs, essentially. Because everything, if a leaky roof could destroy your whole house.
Yeah. And we've seen a lot of times where if they were to get denied, they have no clue like the next steps to get like a reinspect or anything like that. We know all the steps to work with the insurance company. A lot of times independent adjusters come out, they're just whatever, running through it and denying claims that should be getting approved. Well, a lot of times if you get a denial, most customers don't even know what their recourse is. We know all the steps to end up getting it approved. So,
Whereas I think the insurance company is inherently going to try to protect its interests.
right,
The consumer has interest, and then of course your company has interest that potentially can help the consumer not get taken advantage of by the insurance company,
right. Hmm.
and then help. And then the adjuster helps the insurance company not get taken advantage of. The consumer,
Yeah, because it does go both ways. You do have some dirty contractors that are out there damaging the roofs
really,
themselves with hammers, and oh yeah, I've heard all there's all kinds of stuff adjusters tell me they've caught them in the act. So I mean, um, so it does go both ways. Um, but yeah, we're there to obviously advocate, not really advocate, but just be there for the insured and just make sure that the claim hopefully gets expedited and we get the repairs done in a timely manner. That's what we're there to do.
what do you think the consumer, that everyone that's listening to this, may if they don't own a home today, they may.
Yeah.
What are some questions they could ask someone that knocks on their door someday and says, "There's been a storm in your neighborhood, I believe,
Yeah.
and can I get on your
Yeah,
roof?"
because some people aren't home. You're right. So we've knocked some doors. The person wasn't even home, and they're looking at us crazy, like there wasn't a
Yes.
storm. And it's like, yeah, there was. So I have the technology. I mean, I use an app called Hail Recon, and so it's called like a SWAT, SWATH. So I'll just break out my phone right there and say, well, here's the date, and here's the swath showing that 1.5, 3 inch hail hit this area, right? It literally hit your home. So we've already done some inspections on some of your neighbors. We are finding damage to roofs, siding, gutters. Once again, it's a free assessment. If it's there, it's there. If it's not, it's not. If it is there, we're going to show you pictures of it and then walk you through the claims process. So
What can the customer ask to see if it's a
to who, like
legitimate
other
company?
contractors that are knocking their door, or
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like, what should they
um
be asking about?
yeah, I usually ask to see maybe like in the north, like maybe ask to see like their license. That's always key. Like if a storm, if it is a good storm, you're gonna have a lot of guys coming from out of state, and usually those guys are not gonna provide good warranties, and unless they're a nationwide company that has personnel in that area, usually when the storm filters out, the work's done, they're heading back to wherever. They're not leaving any personnel back to respond to anybody if there's any issues, right? So that's always usually the big thing. And
Hmm.
so I say always do your research, look up. obviously the BBB. A lot of people go on the BBB. Check that out. Check the reviews out. See if they're accredited with whatever manufacturer they're using. So we're Master Elite certified with GAF. That right there, we're in the top 2% of contractors in the nation. We offer the Golden Pledge warranty. I mean, there's a lot of good things obviously that come with my company. But I also asked, like, yeah, if they do let the contractor do the assessment, I always would request to see the photos. Like, it's just one thing to say, oh yeah, you have damage, let's file a claim. Okay, well, can I see the photos? I mean, let me see the damage.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we always show that we're very thorough with our assessments, and we show them the damage and point out, say, this is what hail does to a shingle that comes in, it punches those granules out. If you can see that black tar mat, I mean, that's a legitimate strike. And you've got these sporadically all over your roof. I mean, definitely the roof is totaled out at this point. We should probably file a claim.
How did you get the church in 2012?
2013, yeah, the
Oh,
spring. So
13.
that was a wild situation. So I wasn't in the storm game yet. But this other company had came in. Their corporate was in Chippewa Falls. Well, then Janesville had gotten hit. My hometown had gotten hit with like a 3/4, 1 inch max hailstorm. Like, it was a really marginal hailstorm. Well, once again, I do nothing about it. Well, I kept seeing this company's trucks driving around Janesville. I'm like, who are these guys? I've never seen them before. Well, they were working this hailstorm, and they were actually getting a lot of claims to go through off this pretty minor hailstorm. So they had contacted the church and had said, hey, let's put a claim in. Well, they'd got denied, right? The insurance company had denied their claim. Well, then I think I'd cold called the pastor. I caught the pastor. I said, hey, looks like you got an older roof. I'm out doing some free inspections, free estimates today. Would you like one? He goes, yeah, we're actually going through the insurance claims process right now. It's gotten denied, but yeah, I'd be happy to get an estimate from you. So I gave him an estimate. I was actually, I think, a couple $1,000s higher than this other company, but he ended up choosing me just because he liked me. He just liked the way I carried myself. I don't know if he did some research. I don't know, but I've obviously installed a lot of roofs, and so I know the systems like the back of my hand. I can recite it in my sleep, and so he obviously knew what I was talking about, and then just chose me to do the work in the following year in the spring. So yeah, that was a pretty big job. I had that job done in one day, 8 hours. We were done. It was a pretty
Wow.
big church, 2-layer tear off, but I had I think I had 22 guys on that roof. And
Whoa.
so they got her done in like 8 hours, and he was blown away. He couldn't even believe it. But and then after that, I'd done like 150 estimates in 2012, and so I'd started doing all these follow up calls, with these customers that I'd done estimates for the year prior, and then all these people started getting their money, their taxes back, in the spring,
Uh,
which is a very key time when a lot of people do their renovations. And I was doing follow up calls, and so many people ended up going to me like, "Yeah, I'm glad you reached back out. I am going to decide to do it." And so I did
wow.
the church, and then I probably did 30, 40 residential. And then right when I was kind of fizzling out with the retail, the big hailstorm in La Crosse hit. And that's the first storm I ever worked. And you know the story with that. The first job I sold on that was a 3-story hotel, the Micro Hotel Inn on I-90. And I've never looked back from storm restoration since then. So
Yeah. Had that not all happened, where do you think you would have ended up?
if it didn't happen, I don't know, man. I mean, once again, I look back on that, and my brother, who's actually passed away a couple years ago, he's the Nate. He's the one who put me on that the
Wow.
storm game. He was in DFW, which is like the mecca of storms. And going through that winter, I was on the phone with him a lot because he was actually selling for a really big company in DFW, and so he's kind of the one that told me about storm restoration and just kind of like the ins and outs of the processes. And I'm like thinking about like I guess it makes sense. I guess there's DFW has just a lot more storms than up here, especially hailstorms. And so I really wasn't paying too much attention to it. I was focused still on mainly on retail. Well, then I had none of the technology I have now, and so I did just basically was calling my ABC supply rep and said, "Hey, just tell me when hail hits in Wisconsin." That's how we had it set up. Well, then they
Wow.
kind of burned me. He burned me. I think I told you there's that big storm out by Milwaukee in April. He didn't tell me for like 2 weeks. Well, I sent a sales guy out there And he gets there, and the storm was already over at that point. He's like, man, he called me. He was a younger kid. He's like, I can't do anything out here, man. He goes, there's signs everywhere. Guys are driving around brand new trucks. Every storm guy and their grandmother's here. So I said, you're giving up after day one? He goes, yeah. So I called my ABC rep and I said, man, why did you wait 2 weeks? I need to know like the night of. So then the cross gets hit. I was on the road the next day and never looked back. So, but now I track storms like no other. That's all I do is I track it.
It's important to be prepared.
Yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
In closing, what do you think of this quote that in the beginning of the show? Plans are only good intentions unless they immediately degenerate into hard work.
Yeah. So that's a very good quote. I actually, well, I like to say I coined this phrase. It's called, you need to gain, retain, apply the knowledge given to you, or I think I put it up on my social media the other day, like last week. You can go to all the conferences and all the hoorah seminars in the world, but if you're not going to gain, retain, and then apply the knowledge given to you, it's all for nothing. It's just you're out there, it's for nothing. You're wasting money and you're wasting your time. You have to take action. You have to. And so I'm big on training. Don't get me wrong. I have my own university now. I like to do the videos and train my guys, but I'm still a very, very big believer of hands-on, getting out in the field, banging doors, start talking with people, and just that's the only way. That's the way I learn the best. I don't like really watching videos and doing that kind of training. I'm very big on hands-on, really getting into it.
And if
Gain,
you're
retain, apply the knowledge, man.
gain, retain, apply the knowledge given to you.
Yes.
If you're listening to this podcast, please share this with a friend that needs to hear this, that's seeking leadership in their profession. And please leave us a review on the Culture Matters podcast. Follow our friend, and we will see you next time on the Culture Matters podcast. Thanks,
Paul Martindale. My Instagram's MPC Tiger and Martindale Pinnacle Construction.
See you on the next episode of the Culture Matters podcast.